My name's Daver, and in this video I make a pair of Viking chairs, also known as stargazing chairs or campfire chairs, out of two 8-foot boards that I picked up from my local home center. Stick around to see how I did it. Welcome back, or welcome to my channel. In this video, I make a pair of Viking chairs for a good friend of mine. He wanted a pair of Viking chairs that he could just use in his backyard or even take with him to go camping. As mentioned, Viking chairs go by a couple other names, like stargazing chairs or campfire chairs. They consist of two boards, and they're easy to set up, break down, and transport with you wherever you want to go. For my friend's request, he asked that I make these chairs Viking inspired, so with that said, I will refer to them as Viking chairs for the rest of this video. Now, to make the chairs, I used two 12 by 2 by 8 foot southern yellow pine boards that are untreated from my local home center. This project is relatively inexpensive, and most people can make this with just a couple tools. Another great thing about this project is that you could probably knock it out over the weekend. All right, enough talking, let's get into the video.
All right, so the first thing that I needed to do was cut the 8-foot boards into two pieces, which were going to be roughly about 4 foot or 4 feet in length. Then I marked out the shape for the seat portion so it could slide nice and easy into the back portion. And I'm taking a couple inches off the side, but not all the way down because you don't want the thing to fully go through the other board. And my seat portion is going to be about a little over 12 inches. And now I'm marking out where I'm going to cut the slot in the other board. And you just want to use some basic math skills to make sure that it fits the other board in there. Now in the seat portion, I'm going to cut these notches with a jigsaw and then cut the longer cuts using my bandsaw, but you can definitely use a straight edge and a jigsaw for all of this. You don't necessarily need a bandsaw. It does make it easier if you have it, so you do you if you got one. Now I will say, I know I'm not using the fence properly here. It should be at the low setting, but whoops. Now if you're wondering what this music is, it's actually authentic Swedish folk music, so enjoy. I figured with the Viking theme, it was fitting. Now that the main shape of the seat portion was cut out, it was time to move on to the back piece. Now, I'm using a drill bit to cut a hole so I can get my jigsaw in there to cut out this piece. I should have used a straight edge because I'm going to pay for this later and have to clean up my sloppy cuts. Now, while I was working on this project, I got an update from a DNA service that I had used, and while I thought I was mostly Irish, it actually said that I was Scandinavian. That is crazy. I had no idea, and I thought that this project was just something I was doing without any type of meaning other than, for a friend. And then I realized that I have Viking DNA, and it really changed the meaning. And that said, this video is brought to you by DNA of Your History. Just kidding. That's not a real thing, and I don't have any sponsors still. Now that both of the basic shapes were cut out on the two boards, it was time to do a dry fit. And it fit like a glove after much work. Now it was time to do the fun part, and that is shaping these into something that would be reminiscent of a Viking chair in the actual era of the Vikings, and could belong in a Viking hall around a fire and a feast. Wow, all of a sudden I'm craving a tall mug of mead and a roasted turkey leg. I know turkeys weren't likely available in Scandinavia until like the 1700s. Now from here, I'm just going to use the belt sander to really shape this and get it somewhat smooth, but I'm not looking for perfection here. I had referenced old historical chairs and just try to get a basic idea of giving that medieval look from the Viking era. Now I could have left the bottom completely square, but I wanted to add a little bit more detail and create this half moon, half ellipse shape on the bottom to kind of define the feet, if you will. And then I just took it to my spindle sander. Now, if you don't have a spindle sander, you might want to avoid this step because it's going to be a lot of sanding by hand to get in there. But if you got a spindle sander, use it. I mean, how many times are you really using your spindle sander? Let's be honest. Now, after a lot of sanding and shaping, it was time for a sit fit. And I have to say, it's pretty damn comfortable. Now, I said that I was making 2 Viking chairs, but I did not show me making the other one. So just use your imagination or rewind the entire part of me making the first chair and you will hopefully have the satisfaction you're looking for. Now, to make these Viking chairs a little bit more Viking-like, my buddy borrowed my Dremel and actually took the boards to start carving in some Viking Celtic-inspired symbols. However, he did not record the footage of him doing so. Now, once I got them back, I decided to go over the symbols again because they were a little hard to see. So I decided to go to town with my Dremel tool and really widen the lines for these symbols to make it more visible. Now it was time to stain and finish these chairs. I started with some pre-stained conditioner, and then I'm actually going to stain these in a dark walnut stain. Anytime I stain a piece of pine or poplar, I always make sure I use pre-stained conditioner so the stain will go on nice and even. And I was really excited to see how this was starting to look. I decided to use some Spar Urethane, which I'd never really used before. The main reason is these are going to be outside in the sun and the elements. Now, I do recommend storing these when you're done using them inside because that'll just make them last longer. But if you forget them or do leave them out overnight, this will help. And I'm adding multiple coats and sanding in between each coat. I think I added a total of 4 or 5 coats just for extra protection. And that's pretty much it. These are a very simple project and they look really cool, and also they're pretty dang comfortable. My buddy who wanted me to make these for him was super pumped and excited when I delivered them, and hopefully he can use them for many years to come.
Well, I hope you got something out of this video and it inspired you to make your own set of Viking chairs. I appreciate you watching, and until next time, take care.